Amatakwape. Betu Ashte. Hello, my relatives. Today is a good day. Well, today, some wisdom from Morning Dove. It says here she was born in 1888 and died in 1936. She's from the Salish nation. That's in the northwest part of the United States and goes into also British Columbia. And here she said, in part, everything on the earth has a purpose. Every disease and herb to cure it. And every person a mission. This is the Indian theory of existence. Morning Dove. Wow. A little short piece of wisdom from a mother and grandmother. Everything has a purpose. With that kind of knowledge and that kind of teachings, now just start thinking about it. If you grow up knowing that everything has a purpose, then you do not want to send your child off to war. Everything has a purpose. Those people over there have a purpose. You, your sons, your nephews, your nieces, your grandchildren, they have purpose. As well as every living being. The trees have purpose. The earth herself has purpose. And all the little people that deal with our grandmother the earth consistently, all the time, who live within her and on her. The ant people, for instance, the beetle people. All of these have purpose. So with that outlook, that wisdom that you impart to the children within the first 5 years of their life, so that they're grounded. They're grounded in these teachings. Wow. I want to remind you, by the way, I was at an AAA convention, American Anthropological Association, or Archaeological Association, I forget which. It was the grave robbers anyway. They call themselves scientists and intellectuals and academics, and they rob graves for a living. Well, I challenged them at their convention years ago, back in the early 80s. Vine Deloya and I were on a panel together. Vine Deloya Jr. Our Martin Luther King. Of course you know that, right? They have a holiday for Vine Deloya Jr. Yeah, right. At any rate, I challenged all those grave robbers. I said, you produce one weapon of war on any and every pre-Columbian grave you have robbed, anywhere in the Western Hemisphere. Produce one weapon of war, just one. And I'll commit suicide right here in front of you. I still challenge that to anyone and everyone. Now, understand, use your own sense. I'm not talking about someone breaking a tree branch off and clubbing someone in anger and thereby killing them. I'm not talking about that. Exception to the rule. But you see, each exception only goes to prove the rule. Fact. So you see, knowing purpose in life, which is natural law. That everything has a purpose. The fly has a purpose. Think about that one. The worm. And we can go on to the easier ones, like the tree and the flowers, the bees, the hummingbird, the caterpillars, the worms, the snakes, spiders. Wow, everything has a purpose. There's a mosaic out there. All the stars have a purpose. And the movement of the stars has a purpose. The sun has a purpose. The moon, we know her purpose. On and on and on. The seasons. You know, I was down at the headwaters of the Amazon in Ecuador. And right over that valley to that mountain was Peru. We were there, my wife and I. That's right on the equator. They don't have variance of time. They don't have any seasons. It's all one season. I thought, wow. Completely different world. One season. One season. Time is equitable almost all year long when the earth turns on its axis. Huh? And yet we share the same belief system. And we didn't have telephones or books. Explain that. Explain that. Wow. Everything has a purpose. You know, the one thing they don't tell you about the Plains Indians of North America is that we developed sign language so that we can, you know, there's dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of Indian nations in the Great Plains of North America. Like I mentioned, goes into the plains of Mexico and Canada. We developed a sign language. Now, if people are warriors and they're warring, it doesn't make sense, does it? You don't develop a cohesive sign language without respect, without knowledge of purpose, without the wisdom of knowing that everything has purpose. And because of that purpose, you develop that sign language. So when we travel, and we all do, there isn't a waterway on earth that has not been traveled by humans. Think about that, man. Think about that. So we had sign language. We could talk with the Pima way down there in southern Arizona. We could talk with the Comanches and the Kiowa of Texas and the Coshada. We could talk with the Sauk and the Fox. You know? It was amazing life. But they don't tell that to you, do they? They don't tell you about our beauty, our United Nations. How we get along. Respecting our relatives' visions. And that's why we had to make the decisions unanimous. That's the beauty of matriarchy. You want true democracy? Do you want democracy? Do you want true freedom? The Six Nations Confederacy and our like worldview gave the colonists the Constitution of the United States of America. The very idea of individual liberty through representative government was not thought of anywhere else in the world until the North American Indians gave that gift. But all of us Indians in the Western Hemisphere, we have that rule of thumb, and that rule of thumb is purpose. You know, you're going to make a decision, then everyone has to agree. Because if a majority makes a decision, a minority suffers. Look back a couple of weeks ago to Wisconsin. Look at all those states. Look at the Republicans. And the Democrats. You know, when I was a libertarian, I called them Demo-publicans. Demo-publicans. They only have very different spending. Not very much of a difference, but they have different spending priorities. That's all. Now it's not the majority rules anymore. It's who has the most money. The majority of money. No wonder the rich get richer and you keep getting poorer and poorer. The rich don't believe you have a purpose, man. But that, of course, that's man-made law. So I thank Morning Doe and all my ancestors. Doksha K. Hope to see you again.